In exercise 1-38-1, we're going to be creating a simple plate with a thickness of 0.25. To start this, I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to select Part. But at this point, I want to go ahead and make sure that I actually put in the file name that I want to use for this, which is 1-38-1, and I'll say OK. Now, it's giving me the choice of 3 different planes to use for this first initial sketch, so I'm going to select Front and then click Sketch. And everything on here is pretty much going to be standard, so I can go ahead and click Sketch. Now, at this point, I have my grid turned off because the grid is actually set up in increments of 30 inches. So I'm going to show a way that you can draw your rough sketch and then go ahead and very quickly scale it down. So the first thing I want to do is I want to start the line command, and I'm just going to draw the line up, over, up, and if you notice, you can see the H that it's putting right there. That means it's automatically making it horizontal. One thing you want to make sure that you don't see is 2 L's. Unless you want 2 lines to be the same length, 2 L's is going to be a bad thing. So I'm going to just continue drawing this piece all the way around and back to the beginning. Now, the middle button, or the wheel, is actually a button, and that's going to be used for a lot of things. Zooming is rolling the wheel. Holding shift and pushing the wheel down is a pan. But pushing the wheel down will also end a command. So if you're in the line command and you want to get out of it, just push the wheel. Now, to scale this so that everything is kind of consistent, if I go to Edit, select All, it's going to select all the geometry that I have. Then I can come over here and click on the Modify button. And this is going to come up and it's going to give me a bunch of stuff. But one thing I want to do before I change anything is I want to unclick Regenerate and click Lock Scale. Then when I click it on a dimension, it's going to highlight the dimension that it applies to over here. So I'm going to find one that's going to be easily modified for what I'm working with. Okay, this one says 178.95, and I want to change that one there to 1. And I'll just hit the green check mark. It automatically scales everything down, and then all I need to do is zoom in to the geometry now. And my wheel isn't zooming very good right now. There it comes. Okay, so here I've got my information. Now the thing of it is any place where it has a light gray dimension, that's considered a weak dimension. Anything that you see that's bold like this is considered to be a strong dimension. Well, not all of these are dimensions that I want to use. This one here is correct. This dimension right here is one that I don't want to use, so I'm going to click on it and hit delete. And I'm not going to use that one either. For that matter, I'm not going to use this one. And as I delete some of these ones that I'm not going to be using, what you'll see happening is you'll see more of these light gray dimensions show up. Well, my total length across the bottom, I want to go ahead and just double click that and set it as 3. Now, rather than changing any of the weaker dimensions, I'm going to be creating some new dimensions. But I still have these 3 strong dimensions in here that I do want to use. So this is going to be 0.25, so I'll just double click and type 0.25. This is going to be 0.75. And this is going to be 0.5. Now, so that I can continue making this thing look the way that it's supposed to look, I can go ahead and actually click on the Dimension tool and dimension the things that need to be dimensioned. From this point to this point, now I've selected the 2 points, now I hit my middle button to place the dimension. It's 1.25. The overall height of this piece is 2. Okay, now that kind of made everything go real screwy based on the dimensions that I've got. So what I want to do is undo that a little bit so that I put in the overall height dimension before I put in this 1.25 over here. So I'll go back to dimension and I'll put in my overall height of 2, and that's going to make it look a little bit wonky now, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. Now I'll click this, and that's giving me an align dimension, so that's not what I want. So I'll cancel this and I'll delete that dimension, and I'll come in here and I'll click the corners as opposed to the line itself and come up above, and I can make that 0.75. This line segment over here is going to be 1.5, and then this one here that I created earlier that I removed, I can now go back in and put in at 1.25. I now have all of the geometry that I need for this first, or for the actual shape of this part, so now I can hit the blue check mark over here to finish this sketch. Once I do that, I can go ahead and click on extrude, and I'm going to orbit this thing slightly so we can see what's going on. Up here, I want to type in the thickness of 0.25 and hit enter. That accepts the distance measurement that's in here. Now I can hit the check mark. Now, since I have everything done for this particular file, what I want to do is go to File, Save. And I am going to save this in my documents, but you want to make sure that you have a folder created somewhere for this. The name of the part is established when you first start the part. That's why I said when you started, make sure you save it as the name that you want to have, and then you just say OK, and then that's the file that you can upload. One thing that Pro-E does is it does something called versioning. So every time you save it, it's going to create a new version of that file. So you always want to make sure that you check the last edited date before you submit to make sure that it's the most current copy.